So I'm standing on the ruins of a house in Capernaum. Okay, you've got the synagogue right there, I can see it, and you've got Peter's house right there, I can see it, and here you are. Jesus, remember at the end of chapter 1, the entire city, everyone is crowded around one house, okay, and now people from so not only the entire city, but now neighboring towns are all crowding into one house. They've got it surrounded, and you have this amazing scene. I'm just gonna read it and picture it in Mark chapter 2. When he returned to Capernaum after some days, it was reported that he was at home, and many were gathered together so that there was no more room, not even at the door, and he was preaching the word to them. And they came, bringing him a paralytic carried by 4 men. And when they could not get near him because of the crowd, they removed the roof above him. And when they made an opening, they let down the bed on which the paralytic lay. And when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now some of the scribes were sitting there questioning in their hearts, "Why does this man speak like this? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone?" And immediately Jesus, perceiving in his spirit that they thus questioned within themselves, said to them, "Why do you question these things in your hearts? Which is easier to say to the paralytic, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Rise, take up your bed and walk'? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins," he said to the paralytic, "I say to you, rise, pick up your bed, and go home." And he rose and immediately picked up his bed and went out before them all, so that they were all amazed and glorified God, saying, "We never saw anything like this." So right here, Jesus makes his boldest statement so far. He just goes, "Son, your sins are forgiven." And the religious leaders are going, "Did he just say that? Who has the right to say your sins are forgiven? That is blasphemy." And Jesus, knowing what's going on in their hearts, he goes, "Man, I know what you're thinking. What's more difficult? You want me to heal him?" And he heals a person. He just says, "Rise, pick up your mat and walk." And the guy does it. And everyone is astounded. But man, don't just listen to this again like a Bible story. Like, what would you do if someone you knew was just picked up? I mean, he was a paraplegic. He couldn't move. And everyone's coming after, helping him. And then he gets up and you don't just go, "Wow, that was a great day. Wow, that was amazing." I mean, you just borderline pass out. I try to imagine, what would I do? Like, I would lose it. Like, who is this? But then to think of the hope, think about the hope that he brought. Not just the thought of being healed of anything, because everyone's bringing, but then you start realizing he forgave that guy his sins. Imagine the hope of some of you that you just know the horrible things you've done that no one else knows about. And you hear about this guy in Capernaum. Man, he took a guy that was paralyzed and made him walk, and he said that his sins were forgiven. Like the hope of, I can be forgiven, I can be healed. That's what the story is about. And you've got to understand just the hope that he gave, but also the priority of him saying, your sins are forgiven. Because most of us, the first time we read that story, we thought, okay, they're going to lower him, he's going to heal him. No, that's not the first thing he does. He deals with the bigger problem, which is his sin. And you've got to understand this. Like, your biggest problem, no matter what you think it is, your biggest problem is not something physical. It's not a relationship with some person. It's not your finances. Your biggest problem is God. And knowing that one day you're going to face this holy God without forgiveness, they understood how terrifying that was. Do you understand it? That bigger than anything physical? Because nowadays people come to God going, oh, will you fix this? Will you fix this? Will you fix this? Help my marriage, help my health, help my mom, help this, help that. And there's a bigger thing that you've got to understand. You yourself standing before a holy God, and Jesus can make peace for you. He can forgive everything you've ever done. And I know there are some deep, deep secrets. Some of you that are watching this right now, and I'm telling you, the hope he gave to the paralytic is the same hope he can give to you. He can forgive everything in you, but you've got to see your need. He went out again beside the sea, and all the crowd was coming to him, and he was teaching them. And as he passed by, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him. So here you've got Jesus, and he's calling the tax collector. Okay, understand the Pharisees hated the tax collectors. They saw them as these traitors. And not only does Matthew, or Levi, as he's called here, start following him, but it says that then Jesus started eating with a bunch of tax collectors and sinners, which makes the Pharisees, the religious leaders, even more angry, going, if this guy is so religious, why would he hang out with these people? And Jesus explains, look, this is who I came for. I came for those who are sick. That's what a physician does. He doesn't come for the healthy. And he's speaking against them, saying, look, you're so perfect, you're so self-righteous, you don't need a doctor. These guys do. And with every statement that he makes, especially with who he calls, it just makes these religious leaders angrier and angrier. Understand, there's three things going on here. Jesus is choosing some disciples to pour into. You've got crowds that are following Jesus that he's somewhat indifferent to. But then you've got the Pharisees who get angrier and angrier, because then Jesus makes a statement when he talks about how his disciples are going through the grain fields and plucking heads of grain, and the Pharisees are going, hey, they can't do that on the Sabbath. And Jesus explains, look, I'm Lord of the Sabbath. Okay, that is so in your... To them, again, this is so arrogant. By the end of this, after he heals someone on the Sabbath, it says that the Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel with the Herodians against him on how to destroy him. So now they are trying to kill Jesus. Like I said, he's got his disciples he's choosing to pour into. He's got the crowds that are just coming at him, but he just kind of deals with him. But then you've got these Pharisees that he's making more and more angry. But the point is, Jesus came and showed. He didn't just talk, but he showed, my kingdom is not like what you're used to. It's not like your culture. As believers, he calls us to do something totally different. He doesn't choose what everyone else would choose, and he wouldn't choose the people that everyone else chooses. He chooses these tax collectors. He saw something in Matthew and says, I'm going to go after him. And he didn't care that the leaders were going to get angry, because he didn't come down to please man. He came to please God. And he said, look, I'm going to create my followers. And even if these people are going to start attacking me and killing me, which they eventually do, as you all know, he says, I'm going to come down on this earth with authority. And that's what he's called us to do, to not look at the way everyone else does it in the world, but to say, you know what, I'm a part of a different kingdom. And I'm ready to follow this Jesus who came with so much authority. And I'm done being a people pleaser. I'm going to please God.